The very first show I ever played was at the Ohio State Fair, in front of about 20,000 people. I was terrified. Ricky Nelson earned millions as America's sweetheart, but he couldn't even buy his own movie tickets. His father controlled every dollar he made. When Ricky asked for pocket money, he was told to pick up soda bottles for spare change. Behind the perfect family image was a darker truth. Recently discovered contracts revealed that his own parents trapped him in a deal that stole his childhood and his money. But that wasn't the worst part. New evidence shows what really happened in those last years before the plane crash. The truth destroys everything people believed about America's most famous family. He was born into a script someone else wrote. On May 8, 1940, Eric Hilliard Nelson was born in Teaneck, New Jersey. But before he could crawl, his name was already being practiced into microphones and written into studio papers. His father, Ozzie Nelson, had already lived through the big band era, leading with a baton in one hand and a vision in the other. His mother, Harriet Hilliard, had sung on vaudeville stages and smiled through film before Ricky could even stand. Their fame wasn't the kind that faded. It was broadcast into living rooms across America every week. By October 1944, the adventures of Ozzie and Harriet had made their family the first true sitcom royalty. The house Ricky grew up in didn't echo with bedtime stories or scraped knees. It pulsed with rehearsals, lighting checks, and scripts marked in pencil. Before preschool, Harriet was already teaching him how to control his breathing while singing. She didn't send him to school at all, not until she was sure he could sing without cracking. Ricky never asked to perform. He was raised like a product polished for display, shaped by his mother's schedule and his father's ambition. At age 4, his name was already printed on call sheets. At 8, he stepped into the sound booth to replace the child actor who played him on the radio show. No one asked if he was ready. That wasn't the plan. He was a sickly boy, thin, quiet, coughing at night, with skin that didn't look made for cameras. Asthma kept him in bed more than playgrounds ever did. He wasn't loud or bold. He was slow to speak, watching everything from behind bright lights and parental instructions. But in 1949, when Ricky and David finally played themselves on air, audiences didn't see a weak kid. They heard jokes, timing, and a boy who sounded naturally charming. Even though off-air Ricky was simply doing what he was told. Within months, the show was getting 20 million listeners each week. Ricky was 9 and earning $200 per episode, which today would be about $4,500. None of it went to him. Ozzie kept everything. Ricky got an allowance so small, it barely paid for snacks. While other kids traded baseball cards, Ozzie used Ricky's fame to trade for furniture, vacations, and property. By 16, Ricky had $500,000 in his name, about $5.7 million today, but he couldn't touch a cent. At 18, he paid 93% of his income in taxes. Once, when he wanted to take a girl to the movies, he had to dig through soda bottles for coins. In 1952, the family moved to Hollywood, and the radio show became a TV show. The living room on screen wasn't just a set, it looked almost exactly like the real one. But for Ricky, the move to television meant more pressure. He was no longer just a voice. He was a face, a body, a public figure, and he didn't enjoy it. He couldn't make friends, couldn't walk anywhere alone, couldn't show up late without Ozzie pulling him aside. No sleepovers, no football games, no dances without permission. Ozzie would say, "The family is your world." And that was it. Ricky started hiding, not physically, but inside himself. The smiling boy on TV wasn't the same backstage. He fought anxiety, taking breaks during shoots to breathe. He panicked before commercials, felt sick before scenes. Magazines, ads, and teen idol headlines felt like masks he couldn't remove. Friends later said he didn't know who he was unless someone told him. By 1955, the show had won Emmys, and Ricky's face was hanging on bedroom walls across the country. The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet aired for 14 seasons with 435 episodes. It followed Ricky from age 8 into adulthood. It showed his first dates, first crushes, and early musical moments. It all felt real because it looked real. But off-camera, Ozzie didn't just direct the show, he directed Ricky's life. Schooling, dating, money, everything was controlled through a script. When his asthma flared, producers hid vaporizers off-camera. When he got tired, after long shoots, Harriet reminded him that the family image came first. A producer once called him an odd little kid, but his oddness came from exhaustion. Harriet later admitted that his cheerful look was often fake. His illnesses weren't excuses, they were problems that had to be worked around. He smiled on screen and collapsed when the cameras stopped. Meanwhile, the money kept coming. In 1957 and 1958, Ricky earned $5,000 per week, over $50,000 in today's money. But he still didn't have freedom. Ozzie used that money for their Hollywood Hills home, Cadillacs, country clubs. Ricky got a $50 allowance. He once said the only way he could buy anything personal was by sneaking coins. In high school, Ricky acted out not with drugs, but with mischief. He failed English just to see what would happen. He skipped class to listen to records or watch live music. He didn't want trouble, he wanted freedom. Music was where he finally found it. It was the only place his parents couldn't fully control him. When he began recording songs, it was because he wanted a voice that wasn't part of a character. At age 10, his asthma hit him hard, not for days, but for weeks. While other kids ran outside, Ricky stayed in bed. But instead of resting, he memorized scripts. Ozzy called it preparation for greatness. Ricky missed school, parties, and childhood moments, while the show kept rising in popularity. Fame and sickness blurred together. Rest wasn't for healing, it was part of the job. The asthma changed how Ricky saw childhood. It taught him he wasn't a normal kid, he was an investment. At 12, he wanted a bicycle, nothing special, just something to ride like other boys. Ozzy and Harriet said no, not because of safety or money, but because it didn't match his image. They didn't want photos of him looking too ordinary. So while classmates rode around town, Ricky walked everywhere, sometimes to school, sometimes to set. The bike he never had left a deeper mark than anyone expected. It wasn't about riding, it was about freedom. Every step reminded him of what he couldn't have. At 14, teasing at school began. Kids called him TV Boy. It started as a joke, but it hurt him. He didn't fit in either world, not the studio world, not the school world. Harriet tried to help by creating bonding moments on set, trying to make the fake family feel real. But Ricky saw through it, and the effort only made things feel more artificial. The teasing continued, and Ricky withdrew. He felt safer pretending on camera than trying to connect in real life. He wasn't growing up, he was being constructed. By 16, Ricky Nelson had earned more than $500,000. Adjusted to today's money, that would be around $3.62 million. But he didn't feel rich. His parents gave him just $50 a week. The rest was locked away. They said it would stop him from being spoiled. But Ricky didn't feel protected, he felt powerless. One night, when he wanted to take a girl to the movies, he didn't even have a few dollars. He collected empty soda bottles, traded them for coins, and bought the tickets. He later said it made him feel worthless. He was a star on screen, but in real life he was a kid counting nickels. Even school dances were controlled. Ricky couldn't go to parties or hang out casually. Ozzy wanted everything chaperoned, safe, scripted. So Ricky stood in rooms full of strangers, approved by his parents, watched closely, told what to say. No risk but no freedom. He couldn't stumble through awkward moments, couldn't joke around, couldn't be a teenager. He once said he felt like a star, not a person. Those years didn't give him memories, they gave him marketing. Then, in early 1957, everything changed. Ricky saw Elvis Presley on The Ed Sullivan Show, and something lit up inside him. He didn't think about the family brand. He just wanted to sing. He begged Ozzy to help. On March 26, 1957, in a Hollywood studio, Ricky recorded I'm Walking and A Teenager's Romance. Both were released on April 24. Before they hit stores, he performed them on his family's show. Viewers rushed to buy them. A Teenager's Romance hit number 2. I'm Walking reached number 17. Suddenly, Ricky wasn't just a quiet boy on TV, he was a teen idol. Verve Records didn't last long. They fought with Ozzy over royalties and control. By summer 1957, Ricky signed with Imperial Records. That contract changed everything. For a teenager, getting creative control was rare. Ricky picked his songs, album covers, musicians. His first single with Imperial, Bebop Baby, came out October 7th. It sold 750,000 copies before it reached stores and eventually passed 1 million. It hit number 3 on the Billboard chart and number 5 on the R&B chart. It was clean and polished at Wild like Jerry Lee Lewis or Little Richard, but Ricky sold. Imperial paired the single with Have I Told You Lately That I Love You, mixing rock and sweetness. It worked. Billboard ranked Bebop Baby number 42 for the year. His debut album, Ricky, included covers like Blueberry Hill and Boppin' the Blues. Along with his hits, it climbed to number 1 and stayed in the top 10 for months. Ricky wasn't just a TV son, he was the face of teenage rock. Ozzy didn't stop there, he wove the songs into the show.